Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I'm super sorry that this video is going up on a Thursday. I was planning on filming on Wednesday, and there was so much construction outside of my apartment, like jackhammers, they're like literally tearing up the road, and I could not film. Like, I literally couldn't get the audio to film and not pick up any of that background noise. I tried and tried and tried. I do live literally in Manhattan, like right above the street. So I apologize for that. And then the reason it didn't go up on Tuesday is because I was actually filming a segment for Goodnight New York about my bar. So that was really, really cool, but that did take up the vast majority of my day. It was such an amazing and cool experience. So yeah, I apologize for this video going up on Thursday. I think my next video I'll try and get up on Saturday, so not Friday, but we'll have like a Thursday, Saturday moment. But today we're going to talk about novels that actually scared me. I think this is something that's really interesting to talk about in the horror community, because obviously everything in the horror world and horror lit is supposed to be scary. But I think that there's something about not having the audio and visuals that you get from like film and TV, or that you would get from like being in like an actual like setting, or like a haunt or like a play or something, that everything is in your brain when you're reading a scary story, and it's things that like sit with you and linger. But every now and then there are certain scenes in novels that actually legitimately creep me out. And I've done a video like this before. I talked about 3 novels that actually really scared me. They're all Stephen King books. But I was thinking recently, and I was like, you know what? There are definitely some novels that had really, really creepy scenes that have still stuck with me, that still unnerve me, that put me on the edge of my seat the way that I do when I'm waiting for a jump scare in like a James Wan movie. And so we're going to talk about those today. I'm going to briefly talk about the book, briefly talk about the scene, and we'll go on from there. So I have, I think, 7 novels to talk about today. All of these books, I believe, are between 4 and 5 stars for me. I like them all for different reasons. I read them at all different times, but they've all stuck with me. And they've all have certain scenes that to this day I'm still creeped out by, and I think it's worth sharing. So they might not be something that scares me overall, but they definitely had like a jump scare moment, or definitely something that like deeply unsettled me and made me want to sleep with the lights on. Okay, first up, we have Hex by Thomas Hoyvelt. This book was a little bit of like a sensation in the horror community when it first came out, or at least when it was released in the English translation. It was originally set in a small Dutch town for the American translation. I know that they did change the ending, but they also reset it into, I think, like upstate New York, like Westchester. And I happened to read it when I was in that area of New York. I guess upstate New York isn't Westchester, but like Hudson Valley. I think it's like Hudson Valley. And I was staying actually near where this took place. And so that definitely added to the creep factor. I'm going to read the back of the book really quickly, and then I'm going to talk about the scene. Whoever is born here is doomed to stay till death. Whoever settles never leaves. Welcome to Black Spring, a seemingly picturesque Hudson Valley town haunted by the Black Rock Witch, a 17th century woman whose eyes and mouth are sewn shut. Muzzled, she walks the streets and enters homes at will. She stands next to children's beds for nights on end. Her eyes may never be opened, or the consequences will be too terrible to bear. The elders of Black Spring prevent the curse from spreading with high-tech surveillance. Frustrated by the lockdown, the town's teenagers break their strict regulations, and in doing so, send the town spiraling into depraved practices of the distant past. This terrifying novel heralds the arrival of an exciting new voice in horror and dark fantasy. Alright, so overall, this book is deeply creepy. I totally see why it has so much praise. I do quite like this book. I don't love the ending. I think the ending gets a little weird and ridiculous. But the description of the witch is so terrifying. Absolutely so terrifying. And how she operates and acts, I find extremely unsettling. And I felt that way throughout the entire novel. But what really did it for me, and I don't really want to spoil anything, but there is a scene where the witch whispers. And what happens after that whispering is extremely dark. It is extremely messed up. I didn't think it was gonna go there, and it just left me feeling so saddened, and deeply creeped out, deeply disturbed, deeply upset, and I loved it. I loved it. And because it went from being a like fun, creepy witch story to being like very, very scary to me. And it was a tonal shift when the witch whispers. And I think that's really something that old Helvoet Hoyvel, I'm not sure how to say his name properly, sorry, really, really nailed with this, was the atmosphere and creepiness of the witch, almost as this like passive character, until suddenly she has the ability to act. And I was so creeped out. So I really, really enjoy Hex. It's a great witch story. The setting is really cool. It's really interesting how it can also be easily seen as like the Dutch countryside or Hudson Valley, but really awesome, awesome read. Definitely gets a lot of the praise that it deserves, but definitely not the scariest book that I have on this list. Next up, we have Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. Again, thank you guys so much for recommending that I pick this book up. This book is creepy. This book is super, super, super creepy. Similar in the vein of Hex, I do feel like this story kind of loses its creep factor as the ending approaches. It definitely starts off really, really strong and then kind of dives down. I'm going to read the back of the book really quickly for y'all. A romantic cabin getaway doesn't go exactly as planned. High up on the windswept cliffs of Pale Peak, Faye and Felix celebrate their new engagement. But soon a chorus of ghastly noises erupts from the nearby woods. The screams of animals, the cries of children, and the mad babble of 100 mournful voices. A dark figure looms near the windows in the dead of night, whispering to Faye. As the weather turns deadly, Felix discovers that his terrified fiancée isn't mumbling in her sleep. She's whispering back. So this was a creepypasta originally that got turned into a full-length novel. The opening chapter of this story is so bone-chilling. And then it's immediately followed by another unbelievably bone-chilling chapter. And it kind of reminded me of the double whammy that you get when you read Stephen King's It, because you get the Georgie chapter, and then you get the gay couple at the fair chapter. I think that's the order. It might be switched. But you get these two, like, horrific chapters back to back when you start with It, and it just, like, sets the tone for the whole novel, and you're just like, oh my goodness. Like, I can't breathe. And that's how I felt reading the Carrot the Parrot chapter, and then the, like, first, like, weekend chapter. We can just call it that. With Stolen Tongues. They were so unnerving to read, and I literally was at home alone with just me and my dog. My husband was on a business trip when I was reading this, and all of a sudden I was like, I am literally sleeping with the lights on. Like, I was so creeped out. The atmosphere in this novel is so chilling and well done and claustrophobic, and I really felt like somebody was going to break into my house reading this. It had me so on edge, and I absolutely loved it. And I really wish that this novel had held up that tone, but it really started to fall apart as like the mystery unraveled, and I think this novel would have benefited from kind of staying on the shorter side and explaining less. The more it gave away, the more it took away from the creepiness of everything that was happening and kind of killed the atmosphere and vibe. But I do really enjoy this book overall, but those first two chapters really took my breath away and just really creeped me out. Ooh, okay. I love this book. I love this book so much. I love this book so, so much. It's like just the most like effed up Coraline style story you've ever read. And it's very similar to the premise of Coraline, but at the heart of it also very, very different. Not as whimsical, not as cheerful, not as happy. It's really, really quite dark. I'm going to read the inside flap of this. To 8-year-old Bella, her family is her world. There's Mommy, Daddo, and Grandma Ruth. But there's also Other Mommy, a malevolent entity who asks her every day, "Can I go inside your heart?" When horrifying incidents around the house signal that Other Mommy is growing tired of asking Bella the question over and over, Bella understands that unless she says yes, her family will soon pay. Other Mommy is getting restless, stronger, bolder. Only the bonds of family can keep Bella safe, but cracks in her parents' marriage are starting to show. The safety Bella relies on is about to unravel, but Other Mommy needs an answer. Incidents Around the House is a chilling, wholly unique tale of true horror about a family as haunted as their home. The bathroom scene. The bathroom scene in this story took me so off guard and was a literal jump scare in a book. This story is told through the perspective of an 8-year-old child. So it takes some getting used to reading, and the style and formatting of the prose is really, really jarring at first, and it kind of disorients you. And because you're from the perspective of a child, it does allow for things to creep up on you that you wouldn't see coming. What's really creepy about the book is understanding that a lot of what you're reading is a child's interpretation of adult situations. And so you're really busy putting certain things together. And Josh Malerman is able to literally sneak a jump scare. Like a monster just popped out jump scare in a book that you do not see coming because you're too busy focusing on the underlying meaning of what this child is trying to understand. And it is so brilliant and terrifying. And the image that my brain conjured up when it happened is just seared into my mind. And that bathroom scene, phenomenal. This book is phenomenal. This was like my favorite book of 2024. Like, I devoured this book. I loved this book. I think when I put it down, I like knew it was the best thing I had read all year. But that jump scare in the bathroom, just so brilliant, so brilliant. And the book overall is deeply dark and disturbing and very, very scary in my opinion. But the fact that Josh Malerman put a jump scare into a novel and did it so successfully, just, he needs to be on this list. Like, I love this book so much. It is so good. If you haven't read it, pick it up. Be prepared for strange formatting, and it does take a moment to get into, but this book is so, so worth it. All right, next up, Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. This is another creepypasta turned into a novel. I will say the individual creepypasta chapters, I think, almost stand better on their own than the novel does as a whole, because you do get these kind of plot holes in there, and there's a lot of unanswered questions that do help add to the ambiguity of the mystery of it all. But this book overall is extremely creepy. It's extremely well done. It's deeply disturbing. The twist at the end is so horrifying, and the more you think about it, and you understand what it means and all of the implications, it just gets more and more and more and more and more disturbing and horrifying. But the chapter boxes, to me, is the scariest thing in this novel. I'm gonna read the back of the book. In an attempt to make sense of his own mysterious and unsettling childhood memories, a man begins to reconstruct his past. As the games and adventures of his youth become engulfed by a larger story, he finds that it forms a tapestry of unbelievable horror that he never could have expected. Each chapter completes a different piece of the puzzle for both you and the narrator, and by the end of it all, you will wish that you could forget what he never knew. Oh, that's such a good, accurate description of this book. Boxes is incredible. It is built on this concept of adventure, boyhood, carefree, do as we will, discover, be on our own, coming of age, classic literary storytelling. And then it's just packed with this deeply dark, suspenseful, dangerous, literally physically dark moment where you have our main character helplessly listening to what is happening. And what gets him there is so disturbing. The connotations, the implications of everything, when you start to understand what everything means, deeply disturbing. But the moment where our main character is just trapped listening was so freaking scary. It was so scary. That whole chapter is incredible. I really, really love this book, but the chapter boxes has really, really stuck with me. I think it's the standout moment of the entire story as a whole, and luckily it's right dead in the center, so all of the build-up and then all of the conclusion, it all comes from this pinnacle chapter, this pinnacle scene, and it is so horrifying. And what makes this book so beautifully terrifying is that it is so rooted in reality. It could actually happen. And I think knowing that there really isn't anything supernatural with this story just makes it so much worse when you think about the implications and the horror of everything that's happening. And I thought Pen Pal was super, super scary, super unnerving, but that Boxes chapter, oh my god. ooh, it got to me, and I'm still thinking about it. All right, I have 2 more for y'all. This book is so massive, and it's so scary, and it's so well done, and I just want Adam Neville to keep writing stories like this because this book is amazing, and I couldn't put it down. It's like 600 plus pages, and I couldn't put it down. I'm gonna read the back. When Stephanie moves to a notoriously cheap neighborhood of Birmingham, she's happy to find an affordable room for rent that's just large enough not to deserve her previous room's nickname, the Cell. The eccentric, albeit slightly overly friendly, landlord seems nice and welcoming. The ceilings are high, and all of the other tenants are also girls. Things aren't great, but they're stable. Or at least that's what she tells herself when she impulsively hands over the money to cover the first month's rent and decides to give it a go. But soon after, she becomes uneasy about her rash decision. She hears things in the night, feels them, things, or people, who aren't there in the light, who couldn't be there, because after all, her door is locked every night, and the key is still in place in the morning. Concern soon turns to terror when the voices she hears and presence she feels each night become hostile. It's clear that something very bad has happened in this house, and something even worse is happening now. Stephanie has to find a way out before whatever's going on in the house finds her first. No One Gets Out Alive will chill you straight through to the core, a cold, merciless, fear-inducing nightmare to the last page. A word of caution, don't read this one in the dark. This is a ghost story. No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Neville, I think, is the best thing that he has written. And it's a ghost story. And in classic Adam Neville fashion, there's this, like, 2-part dynamic between the book where, like, the first half is one story, and then the second half kind of has this, like, cosmic, overarching eldritch terror dread moment. But it works very, very well in this. And the dichotomy of the 2 stories don't feel out of place like some of his other works do, but I really, really, really enjoyed this book. But what's cool is what makes this story scary is when you take away all the ghosts and you take away everything from supernatural, everything, and you just look at what could actually happen in reality, you get a much scarier picture. And then the fact that you add on the fact that all of these horrible things are happening, all of these things that could happen, probably do happen, all over the world, are happening to our main character and the other people in this house. And then you add, like, the ghosts and the crazy entities on top of it, and you're just like, oh no. Oh no. There's a scene between our main character and her landlord that really, really deeply disturbed me. It really freaked me out. I was super scared. It was claustrophobic. It was dark. It was, again, not scary because of the supernatural aspects. It was scary because of the human monsters in the story. And that's kind of this lingering unease that you get while reading the story the whole time. You're like, oh my god, like, the red flags, the red flags, the red flags. And it's not that our main character is ignoring red flags. She kind of doesn't have a choice but to just go along with what's happening. And I think it's the helplessness of our main character that makes this so scary. It's so well done. It's so scary. I really could not put it down. And Adam Neville can write very, very terrifying things. There's a scene in the Reddening that I think is just gut-wrenchingly horrifying. But this book as a whole kind of kept me on the edge of my seat. And he has Last Days too that is really good at writing suspense. Like, he can really nail it. Or the cabin scene in The Ritual is really well done. But those are all novels where they have scenes and moments that are really, really scary, that linger with you. Whereas this book as a whole, the whole thing is terrifying from start to finish. And I was so excited when they announced that they were making a film out of it, because I do like the Ritual film, and they just took everything that made this novel good and just, like, completely removed it from the film. And it was such a letdown because I thought this book was just fantastic and so creepy, and unfortunately, none of that translated onto screen. So if you didn't like that movie, maybe pick this book up. Okay, and last but not least, I had to throw an Anya Allborn novel in here. This is Within These Walls. This book is awesome. This book is about a cult. This book is a ghost story. This is super freaking creepy. I'm gonna read the back. With his marriage on the rocks and his life in shambles, washed-up true crime writer Lucas Graham is desperate for a comeback. One more shot at the best-selling success he once enjoyed. His chance comes when he's promised exclusive access to death row inmate Jeffrey Halcombe, the notorious cult leader and mass murderer who's ready to break his silence after 30 years, and who contacted Lucas personally from his maximum security cell. With nothing left to lose, Lucas leaves New York to live in and work from the scene of the crime, a split-level farmhouse on a gray-sanded beach in Washington state, whose foundation is steeped in the blood of Halcombe's diviners, runaways who were drawn to his message of family, unity, and unconditional love. There, Lucas sets out to capture the real story of the departed faithful, except that he's not alone. For Jeffrey Halcombe promised his devout eternal life, and within these walls, they're far from dead. Cool. This is similar in the vein of No One Gets Out Alive. What makes this story scary is when you take away all the supernatural elements, everything that could happen in reality is terrifying. And this was the best depiction of a cult in like a fictional story that I've ever seen. I watch a lot of true crime, very interested in the kind of like mindset people have when they get indoctrinated into cults, and I thought that this nailed the indoctrination of people into cults, and I thought it was so well done and so terrifying in the way that it just kind of happens. And then of course all of the horrible things that happen once you've been accepted into the cult and like feel like you can no longer leave. Like I really couldn't breathe reading any of the chapters from the perspective of our main like cult victim. I'll just kind of leave it at that. And again, when you take away all of the supernatural stuff, like that was really cool and interesting and well done and creepy, but it wasn't scary to me. It was just kind of atmospheric and like interesting. The indoctrination into the cult and life within the cult, and the terrors of living in a cult and being that kind of brainwashed was so scary, and it was so well done, and Anya Allborn handled it in such a beautifully intelligent, creepy, and unsettling way, and I absolutely loved it. Within These Walls, I read this in like 4 days. Did not want to put it down. Another story, though, where I just remember like reading it alone in my apartment and just being like, I don't think I'm gonna get off my couch right now and go downstairs, because what if like cult members have snuck into my apartment and are waiting to get me? Like that's actually what I thought reading. It was just absurd, but it really like freaked me out, and I loved that about this novel. I thought this book was so good, and I don't think it's spoken about enough when people talk about Anya Allborn's bibliography, but I do think that this is definitely up there with Brother and The Devil Crept In. Absolutely one of my favorite things that I have ever read from her, and I think this book is terrifying and so well done. This is another long one. It's like almost 450 pages, but you will breeze through it. All right, that is all that I have for you guys today. Please let me know down in the comments below what novels actually scared you. Definitely check out my Stephen King stories that actually terrified me. I'm sure you guys can guess which ones they are. Pretty simple if you've been on this channel for a while. And as always, I try to post 2 days a week, hoping to get my next video up on Saturday. And if you enjoy these, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you on the next one. Mwah!